Hey, today we're talking about hyperfocal distance. What the heck is it and why would you use it? I'll tell you after the brand new intro.
Ask David Bergman.
Hey, welcome back to Ask David Bergman. Of course, I'm David Bergman answering your photo questions as always right here on Adorama TV. Don't forget to go to askdavidbergman.com, ask your own photo questions, and I'll pick the best ones to answer on a future show. Today's question is from Mark G, and he asks, what's up with hyperfocal distance and how do I achieve it? Hyperfocal distance, wow, what the heck is that? So, first I have to explain how focus works before we get into it. Now, focus works whether you're manually focusing your camera or autofocus or however you do it. Focus works by focusing on a plane that's perpendicular to where the camera is. So right now the camera's focused on me, but as I move forward and the autofocus picks me up here, it's gonna stay right in focus. Now you can see the background has gone really out of focus. The closer I get, the more out of focus that goes. Like for example, if I was focusing on this coffee cup, for example, you can see how that pops into focus and everything in the background goes way out of focus. You like my little Canon coffee mug? Anyway, so that's how focus works. Now you can change your depth of field with your aperture and make the background stay a little bit more in focus or less in focus. I'm shooting this with the 2870 f2 lens on the EOS R, the mirrorless, and so I think I'm at about 2.8 right now, so that is a really narrow depth of field. But what if you were doing a landscape picture and you wanted everything to be in focus or as in focus as possible? Well, you might say, okay, I'll just focus at f22. I'll set my aperture, at f22, or as narrow, as small an aperture as I can get, which gives me the most depth of field. Well, that's great, except if you watched my video a few weeks ago about the sweet spot, every lens has a sweet spot sort of in the middle, and as you close down too much, you start to get what's called diffraction, which is an overall sort of softening of the picture, and at really small apertures, and so you're going to lose some quality. So landscape photographers don't want that. So generally you want to shoot kind of in the middle range, f11, f8, something like that. What hyperfocal distance is, the foreground and the background are both what they call acceptably sharp. Now, of course, that's a subjective term, acceptably sharp, but for the most part, it means that when you're shooting a scene like where we are today in Central Park, you want to have both the foreground, the middle ground, and the background all the way to infinity as in focus as possible. So finding that focus point where you want to focus your lens, that's called your hyperfocal distance. Now, how do you figure out where exactly that hyperfocal distance is? Well, in the old days, when you had lenses like this, they had actual focus markings printed right here on the lens itself, and you could look based on the aperture that you're shooting at. It showed you what your range was. So it might say like 3 meters to infinity at f11, right? Or and as you dialed in your focus, you could see if you were within that range. That's really old school, and most lenses don't have that on anymore. And that was also kind of based on film, which is a little bit different. Look, you could go down a rabbit hole with this hyperfocus thing and start reading about circles of confusion and all that kind of stuff, which is basically how out of focus something is. And it's different in film than it is on digital because of the higher resolution sensors we have now. But for the most part now, these sort of markings are not super accurate. So you generally don't want to use those. Now, other ways to find what your hyperfocal distance is. There are websites and there are apps. There are great apps for the phone, and basically you can just plug in the numbers. You plug in the lens you're using and then your distances and what aperture you're at, and it'll tell you exactly where to focus. So it'll say maybe at 10 feet, if you focus at 10 feet, you're gonna have from 5 feet to infinity in focus based on the aperture you're shooting at and the lens, because your focal length will change that also. So the apps are a great way to do it. However, there is another way that's a lot easier. And let's look at this example here today. So we're out here, by the way, let me tell you, put my coffee cup down, but let me tell you what I'm shooting with. This is the Canon EOS 1DX Mark III, the brand new camera that I'm lucky enough to have one of these in my possession. There goes my coffee cup. But anyway, I'll pick that up later. So I'm shooting with that. I'm on live view so I can see the screen. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see it, but I'll show the pictures as I shoot. So, and then I'm looking out at this scene. Now, there's a path that leads away from me, and then there's trees and then buildings in the background. That's Fifth Avenue over there, and I want to make everything in focus. I want this path, most of this path to be sharp, and I want the buildings to be sharp. Obviously, if I was shooting at a very narrow depth of field, a wide aperture, and I focused on the front here, that background's going to be way out of focus. So first thing I'm going to do is go to my sweet spot, which is f8, f11. I think on this lens right now I'm at f11. So the way hyperfocal works, the mathematical equation is that wherever you focus, that point, if that's your hyperfocal distance, what's going to be in focus is half that distance back to you to infinity. So if I was focused at, let's say, 20 feet, then anything from 10 feet to infinity is going to be relatively in focus, acceptably sharp. Remember, we're talking acceptably sharp here. If I know that equation, then what I can do is I can work backwards from that and figure out. So in this case, I've already sort of measured this out, and this path has these slats on the side, and I know that this couple of slats up here, when we take a picture, that slat right there is 13 feet away from the camera. I measured it out, I walked it out. You could use a tape measure if you want. You also might get better at judging distances if you do this a lot. And so I know that one's 13 feet away. That's the first thing that I want to be in focus. So all I have to do is double that distance. So 26 feet away from the camera. If I focus at that point, in this case, it's actually right where the bend starts, right where the curve starts on this pathway. If I focus there, then 13 feet, that first slat that I want in focus, all the way to infinity is going to be acceptably sharp. So that is sort of the easy way to figure out your hyperfocal distance. You sort of work backwards. It really is, when you're out in the field, kind of a much easier way. You can walk it off. Hyperfocal distance was I think it was more important to understand the math and really calculate it properly in the film days because you couldn't see the picture. We have advantages now shooting digital in that obviously you can see it. Look, with a mirrorless or with live view on the 1DX Mark III, I can see the picture before I take it. So I can actually, and it's got depth of field preview, and I'm seeing the picture exactly how it's going to look before I shoot it. So I can magnify the picture, I can look at it on the screen, check where the focus is. You could also, if you don't have live view or you're not shooting mirrorless, just take the picture and look at it, right? So that's another way to certainly check it out. What else would you use hyperfocal distance for? Well, it's not just for landscapes. It also can be used for, let's say you're doing a group shot and you have multiple rows of people at a wedding, let's say, and you want everybody to be in focus. Well, if you calculate where, you don't want to focus on the row in the front because then probably the row in the back is not going to be sharp. But if you calculate where in that middle area to focus, take the front area, double that distance and focus there, you're more than likely going to get everybody acceptably sharp. It really depends on how picky you want to be. If you're somebody who really wants to measure, look, if you're making a print that's going to be 10 feet wide that you're selling in a gallery, you need everything to be super tack sharp. There are other ways to do it. You could use a tilt shift lens or a lens with a bellows on it that changes the way the focus plane works. You could also do something called focus stacking where I've done videos on this before where you actually take multiple pictures at different focused at different places and then combine them in software. There are some cameras that will do that in the camera. That's other ways to get everything super sharp all the way through. But if you want to be, do it the old school way and get it right in camera, which I'm a big fan of, just calculate what your hyperfocal distance is, shoot at that distance, and everything should be nice and sharp. Hey, listen, thanks, Mark, for that question. I appreciate you guys joining me. Come back again next week. I'll have a new question right here on Adorama TV. Don't forget to subscribe. There's so many great hosts on Adorama TV and lots of great free photo content. So go to AskDavidBergam.com, ask me your photo questions, and hope to see you back here next time. Thanks very much.